So in this first patch, we're going to look at the mix. It's 2 HP wide, as are all the 2 HP modules, and this is a 4-channel mixer for audio or CV. Now, a saw wave into a filter is a beautiful thing. Classic sound that many of us love. But you can create your own waveforms by combining several from the same oscillator. This is the output of the mixer, which is coming out on this yellow cable and in to channel 2, the blue trace, and then coming out on this black cable just underneath. These are buffered copies on the Modax data to the filter, and then I'm coming back into channel 3 from the filter, and then that's going to record. So you can see that purple pinky trace dance around. But we've got several inputs. So we have a sub, an animated pulse. This is from a Livewire AFG. And we've also got some noise, which, if we turn this up, we will see is noise. And as expected, you get filtered noise. But we can actually combine several of these to create our own wave. Let's start with a kind of fuzzy saw. And you can hear that that noise is kind of adding quite a lot of grit. I'm going to leave a little bit in there. Let's add some sub. Seriously beefy low end combining the saw and that sub square. Back that off a bit. Add some moving pulse. Let's get a looping envelope into the filter modulation. And just listen how glorious it is. I think it's a really key tip for synthesis, in that having lots of little mixers like this one around for audio or CV really allows you to exploit other modules really well. Let's just play around with the levels. So short and simple, but great tip for mixing audio to create your own unique waveforms before hitting filters, folders or other processors. Now for this patch, I wanted to use the mixer again, but this time for CV. Again, and just to kind of prove the point that as a synthesis tool, lots of little mixers dotted around is an amazing thing. So I have a waveform into a filter. That's fairly kind of external to what we're doing and demoing here, but simple waveform into a low pass, we're recording the output. Now on the top channel, I have an envelope. And the output, as you can hear from this mixer, well, you can see it's on the Modax data trace, but this is also going to modulate the filter cutoff. I also have a stepped random voltage. Which is going to be great for creating a more kind of humanized, real, modulated, alive kind of sound. Tiny bits of this with the envelope. You can create these little pushes and pulls and accents, and it just feels more real with that element of stepped random mixed with the envelope. On the third channel, I have an LFO. Slow sine wave LFO, simple enough. But I just wanted to demo that by mixing these together, just going to speed this up. Create a lot of variation and more unique modulation of here, just a filter, but of anything you can imagine patching this to in your system. So in this patch, we're going to check out freeze. Now in this patch, I have my audio in and I'm coming straight out, pretty much unaffected. I've already got quite a glitchy beat playing into freeze. Bit of drive, bit of compression, bit of reverb in there as well before the drive, so it's kind of smushing it all up. And I want to just go through what freeze actually does. So we have a sample rate reduction, which is always active. It's not just when we actually activate the beat repeat style effect. So bring all that alias in, noise that works great with this kind of beat. Right back up to the clean input. At the top, we can actually see V sample rate as well, which we'll be doing later. We have a switch in the middle to select whether we gate the capture and buffering and repeating of the audio. We then have a knob and a CV input. The knob is the buffer size. Let's just put this switch onto gate or latch so it will latch on. We can have that as a non-latching switch, so it will just stay on when held and go off. This would take into account gate length. The latching will just trigger on regardless of how long I hold it. It's going to stay on until you do it again, or it gets a second trigger or gate or pulse. So you see on the blue line I have a random trigger, random gate. I've got some fluctuating random voltages with LFOs and random down below as well. Let's just capture some audio. Put the LFO into buffer size. Put this in trigger mode. And these short little triggers aren't really going to capture much, so let's put it in latching mode. There we go. So 2 HP, that's ridiculous. You know, we're used to mults and really basic stuff. I mean, to be fair, the mixer's basic, but it's a super great utility. This is killer. Let's modulate sample rate. And start toggling on and off that buffering and repeating of our audio input. So that's freeze. So that's freeze, an audio rate buffer, nice great repeater, stutter, glitch, IDM, madness little thing in 2 HP, which is ace. So next up, let's check out the comb. But first, let's listen to what our input is going to be. This is a really short envelope opening a VCA on some noise that's going through a filter and modulating the resonance and the cutoff of this filter. So let's just have a listen. So slight tonal changes. That's actually this blue trace at the top. Now if I come out of the buffered copy into comb, and I come out of comb to record, you can already hear what it's doing. It's a comb filter and a delay line that at fast rates can introduce harmonics, and we can also create car plus strong style synth sounds with this. So resonance brings up that feedback. Sounds like fast delay. Then as the frequency goes up, you're starting to hear these more physical modelling, almost tubular. If anyone's banged like a long plastic tube, that's kind of the tone that you get. Now the dampening is the dampening of the feedback circuit. So as we open this up, there's our string sound. Resonance brings up the kind of length of that string with the feedback of this delay line. And dampening allows us to kind of dampen the high frequencies in that feedback path. So again, an amazing use of 2HP, way beyond a simple utility, and not hampered by the 2HP size at all. I should say this cluster of 7 2HP modules isn't how I would lay it out in a system. This is simply for convenience for the video next to the Mordax data scope. It is a little bit tight, if I don't say that, someone else is going to. Getting into all these little knobs, but just one of these dotted next to, say, a bigger oscillator, another next to the scope, another one next to, say, your drum sequencer, adds a hell of a lot of power. It's far from just filling tiny gaps in your system. They really add a lot. And that's the kind of point of this video, to give you quick examples of a few of these modules to really show that off as utilities or just outright killer modules like the freeze and comb. It's there in 2HP. So let's add a little bit of modulation. This is a looping envelope to frequency. Let's add a LFO to resonance. And one to dampening as well. Let's open up the VCA decay on the noise at the input. Tiny little clicks. There's loads of killer sounds to be had. It can be way more subtle, more phaser-like, over droning waves. So let's check that out before moving on to another module. So you can see on the Mordax data, I have a saw wave. This is going into channel 2, up on this pink cable, into the comb, orange coming out. We can see it on the yellow trace. And then the red cable is going out to my mixer to record. We all know what a saw wave sounds like, so let's get straight into manipulating it with the comb. You can hear that kind of chorus phase style. That's cool when you dampen it. Let's add an LFO to frequency. Slowly bring up the damp. Lots of kind of stacked unison style sounds, chorus phasing, nearly kind of resonant flange. Again, Very nice. So we're currently listening to an unquantized voltage going into my synth voice. Now let's swap over, that's me holding the end of the cable, to the out of tune. I'm just going to mute this for a second. We get two outputs on tune, and because of the camera angle, I'll overlay a graphic of the module. Have our input, our LEDs to show us the available scales, a scale select knob, we have a bias knob underneath, and this bias will simply offset the sequence. So listening to this as is, I'm just going to turn up bias. You get the idea. It's like moving the coarse tuning of the whole thing, stepping up and down the tuning of the pattern. Now when all LEDs are lit, this is a chromatic scale that we're quantizing to. When just the major LED is lit, LED 1, this is simply a major scale. When it's major and the star, this is a major pentatonic, LED 1 and 6. This is a minor scale, just LED 2. And minor plus the star is a minor pentatonic. When harm is lit, this is harmonic minor on LED 3. When harm and the star, this is the Egyptian minor scale, LEDs 3 and 6. LED 4 is a whole tone scale. Four and 6 is octatonic. Diminished is LED 5. And diminished and the star is another octatonic scale. So again, a really great use of 2HP. You may have a big, great, tactile, analog sequencer, lots of switches, lots of knobs, but it's not quantized. Putting this next to it, in not much more space, gives you musical output, which is great. So in this final patch, let's explore the switch. I'll overlay a graphic because of the jaunty camera angle. We've got 3 inputs, 1 output, and a potentiometer with CV to cycle through those 4 outs. Simple, again, great effective use of space, not just something simple and boring and not that exciting. This is really cool. So we have an empty slot on 4, because I want to be able to inject silence into this kind of random sequence of sounds. Some modulated noise, because why not? A chord tone on 2. And a simple droning oscillator on 1. Now when I add some random CV to this, little patterns and riffs start to come out. This could be a looped sequence that's really super intentional, really well crafted, but I'm just using a random stepped voltage for now. Let's add a beat to this and get a little glitchy pattern going. So that's just 5 of the modules from 2HP. They've got a wide range, including a reverb and a delay, some other utilities as well. Be sure to go check them out, 2HP, and thanks for watching.